Hi guys, the next chapter we're going to be looking at is Lally and Brighton, which is quite an important chapter in the scope of the novel. In this chapter, Lally has made a decision that she's going to write a letter in response to the TRC's request from her, and she wants to finally gain some sort of closure on the events of her childhood. She goes to Brighton to get away from her usual environment and sits in a restaurant and thinks about how to start the letter. As she's sitting thinking about how to write the letter, she starts to feel nauseous and realizes that she needs to start slowly, and so she takes out this parcel of photographs and press clippings from the TRC that she's gathered together. She probably uses these items to try and sort of jog her memory. Remember, she would have pushed all these memories back and tried to forget about these things for such a long time that it's hard for her to suddenly start remembering them again and trying to deal with them again. She starts going through the photos, and from the photos we can tell that up until now she really hasn't had a very fulfilled or extremely happy life. She's moved around a lot. She's made a lot of connections, but none of them are really important connections, people that she's still in touch with. It's more people that she's met and known for a few days or a couple of weeks or a month here and there, but no one that has stayed in her life full time. And she hasn't really had any settled times at all. The only time that she was sort of settled and in an actual stable relationship was when she was living with a boyfriend called Arthur in England. And of all the many guys she slept with, Arthur was the only one who she could actually really call a boyfriend, which kind of indicates to us that she really wasn't looking to have any sort of real relationships. She says that she wonders now if she couldn't have married Arthur, but that's probably only because she's starting to look to deal with things and starting to move forward, whereas when she was younger there's no way she would have been able to marry Arthur. She works her way back in time through the photographs until she finally comes on one of her and Fat Betty, and in the background is a sissy busy cleaning one of the windows, and this prompts her to think of Nomda and Sipho Kashane. And she has a couple of goes at trying to start writing the letter again, but still struggles, and she just doesn't know how to begin. She then looks through the press clippings and finds a picture of Dilepart, who's applying for amnesty. And it seems as though the Eastern Cape was sort of a dumping ground for all the apartheid enforcers that were too mad or too cruel to be given any power in a more publicized area. So men like Dilepart were transferred there so that they could continue their torture and murder under less scrutiny. So just then, when she's thinking about this, a group of activists walks by, and they're busy protesting the use of animals in beauty products. And Lally suddenly has a ridiculous image in her mind of a policeman demonstrating the wet bag technique on a bunny. This is probably prompted by the thought of Dilepart in her mind and the terrible things he did, and then that combined with the animal protesters just comes up with this ridiculous image. And the wet bag technique was actually a torture technique used in apartheid times. There's more information on it in your study manual on page 63, and there's actually a poem on it by Ingrid de Kock that you can read up just to find out some more info on that. Anyway, this image in her mind prompts her to begin laughing, and she starts laughing so hard that she eventually starts crying and rushes off to the bathroom. In the bathroom, she cries it all out, and she thinks of all the people involved. She thinks of the victims, Nomda and Sipho Kashane, and she thinks of the perpetrator, Dilepart, and then she also thinks of herself, the so-called beneficiary, right? And the reason she would have been called a beneficiary is because she got a decent education because of the apartheid system. and she did have certain privileges because of it, but in reality she is far more of a victim, as she was really scarred, and in effect it has sort of ruined her life and affected her life really badly up until now. All that she had to endure because of the apartheid system. She also feels rather guilty for not doing anything about the incident, and probably sees herself almost as a perpetrator in a way as well, because she couldn't speak up and she couldn't do anything to stop it. So there is kind of a switching or a certain ambiguity in the roles there of who is the victim actually, who actually is the perpetrator. And there's some sort of confusion in her mind about it as well. Anyway, Lally then starts feeling better. She goes back to the table and she's far more calm now. And she's realized that she can't keep running from this past forever. And on page 211, she actually says, you can't spend the rest of your life crying in bathrooms, indicating that she's come to this decision. She needs to deal with the events of her past. And so she sits down at the table and she starts her letter. There was a shed next to the plots. And that's how the chapter ends. The next chapter is called Making an Application, and it looks at Lally's previous trip back to South Africa in 1993. Right.